Welcome to the Beyond Bloated Podcast. I'm Carly, a certified health coach helping women ditch their bloat without having to follow super strict and stressful protocols. As someone who's struggled with all sorts of digestive issues for over 5 years, I know exactly how you're feeling. I also know that there's a way to feel better, and it doesn't have to involve tons of expensive supplements and insanely restrictive diets. Join me as I share all of my bloat-busting wisdom to help you say goodbye to that bloated belly and regain your confidence. It's time for you to move beyond bloated.
A few weeks ago, I recorded an episode about how bloating is not normal. It's definitely common, but it is far from normal. In that episode, I also mentioned some other symptoms that are often lumped together with the normal category. The one that will be the topic of today's episode is feeling tired all the time. It's so common for everyone to complain about how tired they are, how hard it is to get out of bed, how they can't make it through the day without their massive Starbucks coffee. These things are absolutely not normal. And today's guest is living proof of that. Lauren Callahan is a gut health expert, Reiki master, ultra runner, and owner of Goddess Health. Someone who is tired all the time would not be able to hold all of those titles. However, Lauren wasn't always as energized as she is today. In today's discussion, Lauren will share with us her own health journey and how she went from feeling very blah all the time to running multiple marathons in a year. Yes, multiple. She will also share with us what she did to get her marathon energy, and spoiler alert, it doesn't involve coffee. So if you've been feeling super drained lately and are ready to get your energy back so you can do the things you love, stay tuned for this insightful interview with Lauren. Thank you for joining me on the podcast today. I'm so excited to hear about your journey.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So I love to start by letting our guests tell their story. So could you please share a bit about your personal journey and how that led you to discover the connection between gut health and energy levels?
Sure. So I'm 43, so I'm a woman in midlife, and like many other women in midlife, was coming to a point in life where, I was not getting, the sleep that I wanted to get. I did not have the energy that I used to have. I was bloated quite often, or had some other sort of digestive issue going on. But honestly, a lot of these things were sneaking up on me, and I was really just accepting them as normal, not thinking too much about them. I was going to the doctor, hearing everything's normal, right? Getting all the blood work done and all the things, and everything looks normal. And so I really was at a place of maybe just accepting a lot of those things. Let me throw into my mood issues, right? I was a therapist at the time, but also working, on my own depression, anxiety, panic attacks, the things like that. Like I have a history of complex childhood trauma. So those have been things that I've worked on for a long time, right? Working on healing these things for myself and also helping other people heal as well. And feeling like it was an uphill battle. But again, I was accepting so many of those things as normal. But what I couldn't accept as normal was, I was a runner, and I was really just wanting to run a marathon. And I had tried for really 4 years. I tried to run a marathon, and I kept running into issues. Like I never did it. I could never get there. And it was always an issue with like inflammation, recovery, repetitive injury, that kind of thing. And so I was always looking for, the way to get around that. And so I started hearing about gut health. And in particular, the gut is like your second brain, right? Scientists are calling it that with very good reason. But I heard about the gut and specifically stories related to athletes, right? How athletes who improve their gut, they did not have these repetitive injuries and inflammation issues and things like that. So I was curious. My first thought was, well, that's really good marketing. Like what does your gut have to do with knee injury, right? Like it doesn't make sense on the surface, but I was curious enough. And the question that I kept coming back to was, I eat decently healthy. but what if my gut is not in a healthy place to actually receive and process the good things that I'm giving it? And Carly, like, that was the best question I ever could have asked myself. Because I did go on to test my gut, which is one of the first things that I do with my own clients, right? So that we can take the guesswork out. I mean, I can give you principles all day long for improving your gut health, and they may have nothing to do with your gut, right? So we test, right? So I tested my gut health, and if I could get a grade, I basically got an F. And Lauren Callahan does not get an F and be okay with it. And so I went on this journey of healing my gut. And so, I mean, that's a lifelong thing to nurture a healthy gut. But I'd say for like 6 months for sure, I was like really intentionally like having a laser focus around this. And after that 6 months, I went out and I ran my first marathon. And not only that, just a few months after that, I actually went and ran my first 50-mile ultra. And then right after that, just like a couple months, I did my first Ironman. And then I did another 50-mile ultra, and then I did another Ironman, and I did a 100K, which is a 62-mile run. And I did that all within 1 year. And so I was like, well, there's really something to this whole gut health thing. The thing that really, like, as far as my personal journey, that really stood out to me was, yes, like improving my gut health radically opened doors, athletically for me, which was important to me. But the other thing was I had all these moments along the way of healing my gut where I'd say, wait a minute, I'm sleeping again. I'd have another day where I'd say, wait a minute, like I'm happy, like I'm a happier person, right? And this is not a struggle to feel happy in the way that it had felt before when I was struggling with depression or anxiety or panic attacks. I would have days where I'd have that moment where I'd say, wait a minute, I'm not bloated anymore, like ever. I don't have any bathroom issues, like none. Right? I mean, it blew me away, right? And that, of course, was in addition to, the energy. Obviously I was, running ultras and doing Ironmans. I mean, I had worlds more energy than I used to. I did not have the inflammation and recovery issues and repetitive injury issues that I used to have. I wasn't getting sick, right? Like I have a history of allergies and asthma. So getting an upper respiratory infection at least 3 times a year was a norm for me, right? And now I wasn't getting sick. So, for me, like healing my gut changed so many things for me. And particularly remembering that I was a therapist, like, right, the work that it did around my mood, I was just amazed. And so when I would have people come into my office wanting help, healing from depression, anxiety, panic, trauma, all the things, yes, like I loved helping with that, doing that all day long. But I also wanted to say, can we look at your gut? Can we see what's going on there? I don't think this has to be the struggle for you that you think it is. And I don't think that you have to accept as normal what has been told to you is normal, right? And I knew firsthand that was true.
Wow. Yeah, you have been on an incredible journey. I am so impressed by all your marathon running. Wow. So you kind of did this on your own, it sounds like. Like you went to doctors and you tried to get help, as we do, and you were told tests are normal, labs are normal, everything's normal, you're fine, go away. That's what a lot of us hear, sadly. And somehow you stumbled upon gut health, which thank God you did, because look at you now. But for someone who isn't sure, like they don't know a lot about gut health, maybe they don't have the time to do the research, what are some like clear signs that what you are experiencing is related to poor gut health?
So this answer is going to sound like frustratingly vague, but I truly mean it. The gut is called your second brain for a reason, right? Like it touches everything. It touches your immunity, your energy, your mood, your mental clarity, did I say immunity? Like it's like inflammation, your digestion, your hormones, it is related to everything, right? Like weight loss, blood sugar, like every health outcome that you can think of, like your gut is related to it, right? So for me, looking from the other side, like looking back now and seeing all of the things that changed just by improving my gut health, and also seeing it in my clients, right? Like it's always something different. Like somebody comes to me for something like, I can never lose that last 15 pounds, right? Or they come to me because, you know, they have thyroid issues or, you know, some other kind of like adrenal problem, or, you know, some kind of hormone thing is off, right? It always surprises me, like the things that improve once somebody improves their gut health. So the frustratingly vague answer I would say is that truly for me, like when anything is off, if you are not feeling right, if that is your mood, if it's your, you know, your mindset, you know, mental clarity, like if it's, you're getting sick in some way, you're having chronic you know, health issues, if it is pain, if it's inflammation, anything, like I would always say, let's check your gut first, because that really can narrow it down. Like that can eliminate a lot of things. You know, I think of one client in particular. She was having pain in her feet and hands, and she'd been to the doctor, she'd been to the physical therapist, she'd been to everybody. We tested her gut. And it turns out, you know, she had one of her gut metabolites was totally out of whack, and we could trace the whole process and say that is exactly why your hands and feet are hurting, right? So we can know exactly, right? And so yeah, like testing your gut health and knowing for sure really helps narrow down like any sort of health outcome that you're looking at. So that's a little broad for sure.
No, it's very true. I'm really glad that you said that, because I have had a similar experience where I had symptoms that weren't obviously related to my gut at the beginning. So I was getting chronic infections. I was fatigued all the time. I had dry skin, like things that you wouldn't typically associate with the gut. You know, I wasn't bloated at the time. I didn't have food sensitivities.
Right.
And all of that went away when I started improving my gut health, because I developed gut issues later down the line.
Yes.
So it absolutely is all connected. And as you said, especially if you're like going to the doctor, you're doing the test and they can't find anything wrong, look at your gut, because I'm like 99% confident that there's probably something going on in there that can be corrected. And it's actually great news, because it means you don't have to live with this mystery illness for the rest of your life. Like you can improve your gut health and you can feel better. As you and I are both very well aware, we did it for ourselves, we've done it for our clients. So I think it's like a great thing to know you can improve it. It's not forever. And on that note, can you tell us a little bit about what you did in your own life to improve your gut health?
Hey everyone, Carly here. If you are tired of feeling bloated and uncomfortable, which I know you are, I have something that can really help. My free ultimate guide to bloat busting. I've been there myself, and I know how frustrating it is to try super restrictive diets and expensive supplements without getting results. If those methods were going to work, they would have worked by now. That's why I created this guide to offer you a different approach. In the ultimate guide to bloat busting, you'll learn techniques to listen to your body and eat with intention, avoiding overeating and choosing foods that truly benefit you, tips for proper hydration to support digestion and reduce bloating, a guide to delicious foods that promote a healthy gut and how to easily incorporate them into your meals, and effective methods to manage stress, which plays a huge role in gut health. These simple, practical strategies can make a big difference in your daily life, helping you feel lighter, more energized, and comfortable in your own skin. Ready to ditch the bloat without strict diets or costly supplements? Download your free copy today at beyondbloated.com/ultimate-guide and start your journey to a bloat-free life. Now, let's get back to it.
Yeah, for sure. I'd say I like to break it down into like three different elements because they all are very important, right? Like I think certainly the first thing that, you know, a lot of people tend to think is nutrition, right? And yes, like nutrition is primary for, you know, nurturing a healthy gut. But it really is like one part of a process, right? So what I did and what I do for the people that I work with is, the first step that I would say is healing your gut. I usually, like 9 times out of 10, like this is a really important element. And I emphasize this, it makes sense like logically, but I really want to highlight it because, like I said to you a minute ago, Carly, when I first decided to go on this path, I kept coming back to that question, like, I'm eating really healthy, right? So it would make sense that surely if I'm eating healthy, I would have a healthy gut, but that's not necessarily the case. We have so many things that really work against us when it comes to a healthy gut. I mean, we just have amazingly unhindered access to like pollution and antibiotics, and stress, right? And all kinds of things that really damage our gut in the long term. And so a lot of times, yes, you can eat the healthy things. I mean, you can have like 100% perfect, diet. Does anybody know what 100% perfect diet is these days? But you can get pretty darn close. But if you are in need of that healing work around your gut, like that perfect diet is really not going to make that much of a difference. So healing your gut, that can be a few different things, definitely, I'd say targeted supplementation. Some people hear that and kind of want to shy away from supplements. Certainly, I'm all about a food first approach. But supplements should be taken for what they were intended to be, like to supplement, healthy lifestyle and food. And sometimes it can be important just for getting over the hump of healing your gut and kind of like getting the momentum going. And that's going to be different for everybody. Again, that's dependent on, where your gut is at, like individually. But so that targeted supplementation just to heal your gut and get it into a better place of being able to receive good nutrition is really important. So then the next thing would be that good nutrition, right? Certainly there are a lot of important nuances, but it's also really simple to, your body likes whole food sources. It likes nutrient dense carbs. It likes fats. It likes healthy fats, right? It likes healthy proteins, right? Like, again, I'm 43, like I grew up in this generation where women heard something very different, right? Like fat is bad, food is bad, you should limit it, right? And we end up eating like highly processed junk because it says low fat or something like that, right? So cutting out like the highly processed foods, hydrating better, getting your nutrition from whole food sources, those are really important for healing your gut, for nurturing a healthy gut. And then the last thing I would say that I did for myself and that I encourage my clients to do and help them to put in practice is what I would call like supportive practices for a healthy gut. And so these are the things that don't really have anything directly to do with nutrition, but they're directly related to supporting a healthy gut. And these would be things like reducing stress and improving your body's ability to respond to stress. And you can do that through food. You can do that through targeted supplementation. There are different ways to do that. Certainly reducing stress in your life, right? That's an easy one to say. That's one that takes a lot of time to do. And so I spend a lot of work around that with my clients. I'll throw this into like on my website. I do provide a free resource on like 5 things that you can do to support your gut that have nothing to do with nutrition. And so these are the things that we're talking about. Reducing stress is one. Another one that I'd say is actually lifting, like as in resistance training. So this is scary for a lot of women. I mean, a lot of your listeners are going to be like, yeah, I love it, right? But some of your listeners may be like, that's very scary. And what I would say is I never picked up a barbell until I was 40 years old. If you've never done it, it can be quite scary. And now I'm totally addicted to it. I love it. But something like that, it has nothing to do with nutrition. And yet it absolutely supports a healthy gut.
Yeah, I love those points. I love that you started with it's not just about what you eat, because so often clients come to me, I'm sure they come to you, and they're like, what am I eating that's causing my problems? What should I eliminate? I have people come to me and their only goal is, I want to figure out what's causing my problem so I can eliminate it, and I can't figure it out. And it's like, that's such a sad goal to me because we can do so much better than that. Like, you don't need to eliminate all these foods. And a lot of them are eating healthy. Like you said, a lot of them are already eating healthy, and they're like, what else do I need to eliminate? So it's so important that we really pound that home. It's not just about what you eat. Supporting your gut includes things like stress management and exercise and all the other things that you said. So I'm really glad that you pointed that out. There's definitely a lot to do when you're struggling. So for anyone who's listening who is really dealing with low energy, like that is their worst symptom right now. They are so tired, it's hard to get out of bed. What would be one or two actionable steps that they could take to just start to feel better? What would you recommend?
Yeah. So the first thing that comes into mind for me, well, I'm thinking two different things. I'll kind of pair them up. So one of our go-tos when we're tired is to get coffee, right? So what I like to introduce is the idea of substituting that coffee for two things. And one would be a forward fold, like think yoga here. Okay, so a stretch, but not necessarily a stretch where you just get your hips above your heart. Okay, and that can be, just folding over, basically like a touch your toes kind of stretch, and just hanging out there for a little bit. And pair that with a drink that is not coffee, but a really good hydration drink. So I actually am in love with this homemade electrolyte drink that involves pineapple juice, coconut water, and salt. And when we are stressed, minerals are one of the first things to go for us. So like our body kind of eats that up, and so we have more of a need for that. Probably more than most of us are taking in. So all that to say, like people who hydrate well, especially with a drink like this, it's not some like funky, store-bought strange additives, kind of, strange sweeteners. It's not that. But folks who drink this electrolyte drink usually experience some very huge energy wins, right? I'm not saying that you're not going to experience like a caffeine headache if you like ditch the caffeine, but I mean, there's a process around that for sure. But that's one of my favorite suggestions, is that somebody hydrate really well, like when they're feeling tired, have it in the morning or have it in the afternoon instead of that cup of coffee, and also do some sort of stretch. And ideally it would be in inversion, such as a forward fold. It just gets your circulatory system going. It gets your energy going in that moment, and just can be like a reset for your body.
Yeah, those are awesome tips. I know a lot of people, like you said, who are tired, reach for coffee, and they reach for it immediately. They jump out of bed and they grab their coffee. They haven't even had breakfast yet. And that can be so damaging on many levels, not just for our energy. I'm curious, do you drink caffeine anymore?
So that is such a great question. Let me tell you my caffeine journey. Okay, so when I first tested my gut, one of the gut metabolites that I test is 3-methylxanthine. So 3-methylxanthine is a really good indicator of inflammation that is specifically related to caffeine. Okay. There are other gut metabolites that indicate inflammation, but this one is specifically related to caffeine. So when I tested it, it was really, really high. And here's the thing, I don't even drink coffee. I drink black tea. That's it. Now, I would drink strong cups of black tea, and I would have like a few cups a day. And I also might have like a little bit of dark chocolate or something like that. But still, like, it was tea, right? Like, surely if I had anything right, it would be my 3-methylxanthine, but it was not. And then as a little side note, I ended up testing my husband's gut health as well, who at that point in his life drank enormous amounts of caffeine, right? And his test came back and his 3-methylxanthine levels were a little bit high, but not that high. And like, I was kind of pissed. But I mean, that's actually a really good illustration of how different gut health can be between men and women. I find over and over again, women just have a much bigger uphill battle with their gut health. But all that to say, my caffeine. So I did cut back on my tea at that point. Later on, I worked to, heal my gut. And I got into, a bad habit again, and I reintroduced some caffeine. But actually, at that point, my body was able to handle it better because my gut was healthier. But still, it was not super good for me. Later on down the road, I did introduce a Reiki practice into my life, and I do this with my clients. And this is an energy healing practice. Everyone experiences Reiki differently. But some people will experience detox kind of symptoms. And I bring this up because this was so interesting for me. Because when I first received Reiki from a distance, I did experience a detox. And the thing was, I remember how I said, after I healed my gut, I had zero gastrointestinal issues. That was never a problem. When I experienced Reiki, I actually had I clearly had a gastrointestinal detox that day. And again, some people experience something like that. And my thought was, what am I actually detoxing from? I didn't even know. And you don't have to know with Reiki, but it was very interesting that it allowed me to further detox things in my system. But the other thing is I had a major, what felt like a caffeine headache. Not long afterward, I did cut back my caffeine again, and I didn't experience anything from it. It was it's very strange, but the only way I know how to explain it is that through Reiki, I was able to detox from the caffeine before I actually detoxed from the caffeine. Yeah, which was very cool and very nice at the time. So now, all that to say, I pretty much have just one tea bag a day. Every once in a while, I will have 2 tea bags a day, but that's it.
Okay, so it sounds like your caffeine now is very limited.
Yeah.
However, you're the most energized that you have ever been in your entire life.
Yes, absolutely.
That is saying something. So for all those people out there who are I can't give up my coffee, I'll be tired all the time. Not true. Lauren is the example for that. So that is great news for everybody who is sensitive to coffee. I know I have a client right now who gave up coffee before she even came to me because she was like, I can't. I have it, I want it, but I'm in pain, I'm bloated. So I understand it is hard for a lot of people to give up, but it's nice to know that when you give it up, you can feel a lot better. And you're even able to reintroduce a little bit of it here and there. So it doesn't have to be a forever thing either, which is always comforting. And now you've mentioned you add Reiki into your practice, which is very cool. So could you tell us a little bit more about your practice and how Reiki is incorporated and all the things that you do with your clients?
Yeah, sure. So for those who aren't familiar, Reiki is an energy healing practice. And as I mentioned a minute ago, it can be done from a distance. So traditionally, I think people who are familiar with Reiki are familiar with it as a hands-on, in-person kind of experience. But energy does not know space and time in the way that you and I do. So it can be done from a distance. This is how I originally received Reiki. It was very powerful and effective. And it can heal and balance on all levels. So physical, mental, emotional, and everybody's going to experience it differently. So some people are really going to experience, or highlight maybe those detox kind of symptoms like I talked about, or maybe, faster healing through chronic inflammation or chronic illnesses or pain, acute pains even. Other people are going to really highlight, the mental and emotional sort of healing or freedom that they experience around that. I'll tell you that with my experience with Reiki, it was all of that, which is why I fell in love with it so much. And as the practitioner, and as the person receiving Reiki, you don't have to figure that out. You don't have to know how to utilize Reiki in the correct way. Reiki knows how to heal and where to go and where it is most needed in your body and your mind. So you really can just trust that healing experience is happening. For me, Reiki was a very natural continuation to, a holistic healing practice, especially, after I was really focusing on gut health and, had experienced all these amazing, wonderful energy gains and the bloat going away and, athletically, all the things, right? by healing my gut. And then I introduced Reiki, and it was like everything went deeper. You know, I mean, I detoxed from things I didn't know that I needed to detox from, right? You know, experienced, you know, just a lifting of, you know, mindsets and energies that just didn't need to be there, that did not serve my highest good. And so, you know, for me, this is just a way, you know, to add a deeper level of healing to the people that I work with. I can't remember exactly your question, so I don't know if I just answered it or not.
You did. You answered the part about how Reiki is incorporated in your practice and why, which is very cool because I myself don't know a whole lot about Reiki. I did have a friend who does Reiki do a session with me, and it was very cool. I didn't really have any expectations for it, but it exceeded whatever I did have. So I do recommend it. With that being said, where can people find you so that they can work with you and reach out to you if they have any more questions about your practice?
Yeah, so 2 places. I don't want to make it confusing, but if you go to my website, goddesshealth.org, this is where you can buy my book, Powerful Not Tired. And this is where I really I go into depth about gut health and Reiki and self-care. It's what I call the goddess first principle. So I go into depth about that. So you can get a copy of my book from that website, goddesshealth.org. You can get that resource, 5 things that you can do to improve your gut that have nothing to do with nutrition. But if somebody knows oh my God, I'm really interested in working with Lauren, you can go to my website, laurenbcallahan.com. And on there, you get the details of how to do a gut health reset with me and work with me directly.
Amazing. Okay, well, I highly recommend everyone go check out Lauren if you're interested in working with her or if you just want to know more information. I'll link all of the information you just gave me down below so that everyone else can go find it. And thank you so much for your time today. Your story is incredible, and I can't wait for everyone to hear it.
Thank you, Carly.
Thank you for listening to the Beyond Bloated podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to subscribe and leave a review. And don't forget to share this podcast with your fellow gut goddesses. If you'd like to chat about today's episode, send me a DM on Instagram at beyond.bloated. Until next time, bye!